Man, life was easier back then. All it came down to was like, when I think about Mealabot, I think about High Times magazine. I think about that. Yeah. You'd sit around, you'd get high, you'd listen to your favorite records on a good stereo. See, getting high back then was new. It was something new, and you planned for it. You're like, okay, I want good snacks, good stereo. I'm just set in a stoner environment. I want fast food. Oh god, I want some tacos that are dusted in cheddar powder, some cheddar flake. You know what I mean? It was the early days of Taco Bell, and you'd be sitting around, you'd be drinking a 12 pack. You probably took 4 milligrams of Xanax. You're watching TV with your girl. Your roommate comes home. Yeah, what up? What up, man? He sits down on the couch. I'm like, what you looking at? Fucking August edition of High Times. I'm like, I see that when you're done? That was the thing about going to the newsstand back then. You come home and you open up High Times magazine. Oh God, I miss High Times. And you just start to fawn over it like a Playboy, or like a Jugs magazine, or like a fucking Swank magazine or some shit. And you just begin to fawn over buds that were just either under intense microscope. You could see the crystals on it. You could see the orange stigmas on weed, the orange purple hairs on it zoomed in. Sometimes they're just like altered photos. People writing in trip reports of the acid they just bought. People writing in trip reports of the weed they were about to sell, probably. And you're like, oh God, I wish I was in the Midwest right now. The Midwest there's this deep, dark, green sativa shit. This female Christmas tree bud. You know, all the weed was so different. It's Christmas tree. It's deep, dark, forest green. It's sticky as fuck. It smells like baby diarrhea. And it's got no crystals on it. It looks like dense vegetation. Look at these photos. This is the shit that's going through the Midwest right now. You're like, holy shit, that does not look like our street weed. No, it doesn't. Look at this Northern Lights number 5. It looks like it's coated in confectioner's fine sugar. And it probably is, but look at it. It's got white hairs. It's got purple hairs. It looks like it's covered in sugar. Vaporized. Back then, there was no vape. It was a vaporizer. It was a big machine. You know, back in the 60s, they had hookahs. We had big industrial vaporizers. Big. They were big. They were like 24 inches wide and 3 feet tall. And you'd sit around it, you'd turn it on, and you'd hear it. Ooh, oh, oh, summertime, summertime, summertime. And you light up the bong. You light up the vaporizer. The vaporizer came like a hookah. It had attachments. And you'd sit around and you'd read about fucking High Times. And you'd be like, I want to go. And then they would do all the states in the Union. They'd do Puerto Rico. They would do Hawaii. And you'd be like, look at this Alike Atutu fucking bud that's in Hawaii. Look at this shit. And it'd be red. It would be a red fern. You'd be like, that doesn't even look like marijuana. It'd be a dense, little, tiny, 2-foot high shrub. That's indica. That's why. Big purple fan leaves. You're like, that thing, what is that? That's called Durban poison. What's that from? That's the shit they're growing in South Africa, man. It's all indica. It's bright purple. It smells like blueberries. That's not marijuana. Yeah, it is. You'd see about what they were doing in Humboldt County with a bunch of guys with tie sticks. Just little mealabots around the world. Sugar-coated, about to cream your jeans for little girls and little boys. Bong hits from hell. You'd get a trip report. The closest you can get was New York City. or Amsterdam. I remember was in New York. That was another big locale. And I'll tell you, man, just like that song I wrote, me and Callum Francis, me and Callum. No, that just like the lyric went, me and Paris sitting around listening to Callum Francis. There ain't fuck else to do. The High Times Radio Hour. That's right about the time magazines were going off the shelf. Callum Francis had the High Times Radio Hour. And it was supposed to take, it was just like email's going to take the place of the post office. High Times was going off the fuck. You still could, do you remember back in the day when you could only get a High Times in a brown paper bag? Like it was pornography? I just remember that. Sitting in the 6'4" Impala and watching Rich religiously every month come back. Hold on. He'd be coming back to the car with it. And it's like, what's he got in there? Stacks of pornography? Just a bunch of High Times. And you sit around and you just dream of Milibot's sticky, wet, perfect pussy. This is my trip report. I went to Malta and I put my fingers in the most delicious pussy I've ever fucking had. It blew my mind. Now I'm running back home to talk about the Milibot number 5. Number 5 Milibot strain. And I licked my fingers and I couldn't believe it. And I knew that was, it only comes around once or twice. And I indulged. I vaporized it and I went to fucking marijuana heaven. Look at Dudley Dawson. You're looking good, Dudley. Yeah, and I just put my fucking fingers in it and I licked my finger, KFC style. I fucking love you. Oh. This is everyday pussy for me, Daddy. I gotta live with this shit. And she's got her little beret on. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, wow, you don't even know what it's like. That Milibot indica strain between her legs. That purple, dense, flowery bud with white stigmas. You're like, what is that? That does not look like marijuana. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Just like, does anybody, did you ever, I mean, am I the only one? I feel like I'm on the fucking planet Mars. But you'd read the back. I mean, they would even go, they would tell you about the acid that was coming around. And it was all true. They'd be like, this, you know, this strain is coming around the colleges. It's not like that anymore, dude. 9/11 happened, no more High Times. No more good, dense, purple, flowery Milibot pussy. It's there, but you gotta dig deep for it. Let's seize that shit and choke it out. Make a hybrid strain. That Milibot puss.